everyone, I'm Raine. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new here. Today's video is part of my Querent Spotlight series where I feature real questions from real people. These aren't just surface level questions. Each spread you'll see today is custom built for each person asking. We're gonna just try to tune into their story, their energy, and any insight that we can get from here. These questions will vary from love to career, from healing to creative purpose, and we're diving into each question as many as possible. And my hope is that even if the question isn't yours, something in this message may hopefully resonate with you wherever you are right now. As always, these readings are shared with full permission. Initials and nicknames are going to be used for privacy. And to each of you who submitted a question, thank you so much. Your vulnerability creates space for the collective wisdom. So thanks for watching. Let's start. All right, this question comes from K.C.T, who wants to know if their cartoon will be a success. And so I used the Curious Travels deck for this particular one. The very first card here will be about your current energy around the project. And then we'll move on to challenges, your motivation, any signs of public recognition in the near future, what will help you succeed, and then your final outcome. So let's begin. All right, so we have the current energy around the project. We have the Page of Pentacles. So the energy around this project is full of potential. The Page of Pentacles shows that you're in the beginning stages, experimenting and refining ideas. The Page of Pentacles is kind of on the lower end of the hierarchy, so that's why we refer to it as just like the stepping stone, the learning stages. So this is more like a student honing their craft. The coin over her eye kind of reminds me of a binoculars, right? Kind of focusing and experimenting and refining ideas, but towards the future. You're trying to see, will this be a financial success, right? So you're kind of looking ahead, scanning the horizon. Is there any results that I'm going to be able, or tangible results that I'm able to see? Yet, because of the Pentacles, we consider this energy grounding. So it's still a grounding type of energy here that presents with work. In essence, this project is still in its growth stage. It's thoughtful, methodical, slow is what we consider with Pentacles, but it's still rooted in purpose as with Pentacle energy. All right, so let's move on to hidden challenges. I like to put challenges down below here, the root of the problem. So with challenges here, we have the Four of Cups in reverse. So reverse, this card points to mental pressures with restless energy, because that's what typically the Four of Cups is about. It's that constant push to stay inspired and motivated. That's what's challenging you right now, that sense of pressure that comes with it, right? But that's not true. Creativity waxes and wanes. So the hidden challenge here is learning to work even when things are quiet, when you don't find that motivation, and also being open to small blessings that may not look like instant, quick, viral successes. Now let's look at a source of motivation here, since that is what's causing you a little bit of fear. We have the Ten of Swords. So you may have experienced maybe past disappointments, deep pain, betrayals in creative or personal efforts, but you can use this card as a motivating force. This card marks an ending, but also a new beginning, as you can see in the horizon. The sun always rises after the Ten of Swords. It's now about reclaiming your story after this particular chapter ends. So let's move on to something that you're probably really anxious to hear, and that's the public recognition. So in regards to public recognition, we have the moon. So the moon often symbolizes fogginess, uncertainty, the unknown, but also creative depth. But here we see a crab rising above in front of the moon, right? And the way that the moon is portrayed here, it looks like its eyes are closed. So it seems as if like it symbolizes the world. It's kind of still asleep, but you're rising while the world is asleep, which symbolizes that you are a rising star, a beacon of hope. And you could see that emphasized here with this little star. So recognition will come, but it may not be immediate or loud. it'll be a slowly paced. And we get that emphasis here with the pentacles as well. So I would say it will rise organically through authenticity. It also can symbolize a niche fan base, one that forms slowly but loyally. Also to note, since I am a Lenormand reader, I typically read the moon as fame or hobby, so this card may reinforce the idea that this passion project can bloom into something more publicly appreciated. So let's move on to what will help you succeed. Okay, judgment. So this card is a wake-up call. It's asking you not to do what others want you to do. It's about following your soul's purpose, your calling, right? Not only will this help you succeed, but it will attract the kind of audience that resonates with your particular project. All right, and then we'll move on to, sorry. Ooh, perfect. The final outcome, and that's your Nine of Pentacles. So this card confirms solidly a successful outcome. The Nine of Pentacles speaks of independence. It speaks of financial reward, as you could see, just her attire. It's just full of bloom and pentacles, meaning financial security here. So there's an overall fulfillment here. This is obviously because I mentioned about pentacles, it's slow, right? So this is something that's just going to take some time through steady, meaningful effort. So right here, you're building something sustainable. Over the time, this project will not only bring you external recognition, right? From, we have the moon here, but it also bring you personal satisfaction. It will bring you pride and even financial gain. But again, because of the pentacles, you have to think this is going to be a long-term process. It's not going to be something quick, fast, or viral, as you would see if you had any wand cards here, which you don't. So this is something that's going to take a, it's going to be a slow burn. So in summary here, before we go, I just want to point out that the spread is also framed by pentacles. So remember, this is going to be not just about dreaming success, it's actually going to be a tangible success. And also the fact that you have a moon and a judgment card, these are major arcana, so this is something pivotal that's happening in your life. So this tells us that you are not just going to come to success, but it's deep emotional honesty that will help you carry through this particular project, because it's more, if you are attuned to your spiritual calling, like how you're going to create this project, maybe the artistic interpretation is going to lead to that success. Okay, so it's not just the effort that matters, it's mostly the alignment that makes you happy. So in summary, yes, you will succeed, but it will take time. What's important here is, again, aligning with what your soul desires, your spiritual calling with the project, right? And not necessarily going with what's trendy or what other people might like. Once you're able to align to that aesthetic that you want, I think people will be able to find it, and when they do, they'll recognize it as something authentic, and then it'll become something very successful, both intrinsically and extrinsically. All right, I hope this reading resonates with you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll move on to the next reading. Okay, so this particular spread is for Cry, and Cry is asking for a love reading, and the general reading he wanted wasn't just in reference to what's going on and why has love been a mess as of late. Sorry, I just have the hiccups here. So the very first card we're going to draw here is the current energy. By the way, just in case you want to know what deck this is, it's the Botticelli deck. It's a gorgeous deck here. Okay, so here we have the Knight of Cups, or chalices. So this shows that you're emotionally open. You want to give love, receive love. You're probably already thinking about someone, or at least craving real connection. You're showing up with a soft heart and openness and sincere intentions. But just because you're open to it doesn't necessarily mean it's been easy for you. So let's see what's going on here. Let's start off with the energy block that I usually put at the bottom. Here we have the Nine of Wands, and I'm just going to move that here like this so you can take a good look. So the Nine of Wands in reverse is where we start seeing that tension. This card comes up when someone's been through a lot. You've had to defend your heart more than once, and you're tired. You still want love, but part of you expects to get hurt because this is the typical cycle that you've gone through. So because of that, the walls start to come up, and that can be represented here by the wands. So this isn't about being cold, it's about being burned out from past disappointments. You're being cautious, maybe even a little resonated here, and that's completely understandable, especially when you feel like it's just been causing a lot of pain. So let's move on to external influences. Okay, so here we have the Two of Pentacles, and the Two of Pentacles here, it always shows about balancing or multitasking, things that like you are unable to handle because it's just too much. But in this particular deck, it's showing satires in the water. And satires are known to be chaotic, playful, tempting, but not serious. So this tells me that you've been surrounded by people or situations that are more about fun and distraction than anything solid. This could be emotionally unavailable people, or it might be a flirtation, but there's no follow through. Or it might just be life throwing too many things at you to fully focus on love. Either way, the energy around you hasn't been very helpful in building something substantial. All right, and let's move on how to protect your energy. Okay, so here we have the Emperor, and this is a reminder for you to take your power back. You don't need to be cold or shut down, but you do need boundaries. This card is about being very intentional. It's not about jumping at every connection that you might get just because there's chemistry or interest between the two. It's about asking before you open your heart, does this person match the kind of relationship that I want? The Emperor doesn't chase, he decides. And right now it's your job to do that. Decide what's worth your energy and what's not. So you can see here, he's very pensive. So let's move on to guidance for finding real love. Okay, so here we have the Magician. This is another very pivotal major arcana card. So this tells me that you already have everything inside you that you need to manifest the love that you want. You don't need to become someone else or to fix anything. You just need to get clear on what you want and start living in alignment with that. Take care of your body, take care of yourself, speak up about your needs, let go what's draining you, and be decisive. Like, is this a true connection, right? Because the second you start doing that, that kind of person will who you can actually meet, you'll be there and will show up. So let's look into card 6, which talks about spirit or advice. Okay, so here we have the Five of Swords, and this is a tough one, but it's really important to listen to this message from spirit or from the universe. This card is a reminder that not everyone has good intentions, as you can see here from this person. You've learned that the hard way. There may have been in the past manipulation, game playing, or people who have only thought of themselves, but spirit is saying you're not there anymore. You're a stronger person, you're a smarter person, and you don't owe anyone access to just because they show any type of interest or connection that you may feel, or a fleeting connection. The card isn't just a warning, it's a message of protection. Your peace is sacred. So in summary here, your heart is ready, you're emotionally open, and you do want love, as shown here by the King of Cups. But now it's about being more selective, more grounded, and less tolerant of the chaos or the almost connections that we see here with the flirtatious satires. So we're just asking you to embody more of the Emperor energy. Let the past teach you, as you can see here with the Five of Swords as well as the Nine of Wands. But don't let that define you. Be clear about what you want. Hold your standards. And when you do that, the right energy will find you, because it will have that space in order to land. And that's what you have to give. All right. So let me know if this resonated with you. And if you still feel unsure what kind of love you're really ready for, we can dive deeper next time. Thank you so much for listening in. And please like and subscribe if the reading resonated with you. All right. Thank you. All right. This question is for HS. What is blocking them from becoming their highest self? The particular type of deck I used for this one is the Tarot Volatile, because it contains alchemy, which helps with spiritual transformation. So let's begin discussing about the spread and then interpretation. So we're going to talk about your current energy, any internal blocks and external blocks, as well as lessons you haven't fully integrated and what you need to embrace, and lastly, your advice. All right, so we'll start with the current energy of your soul path. All right, so here we have the Two of Cups, and it looks like two women with the Cadius symbol in the back, which is made out of two snakes and wings, as well as the women here holding two cups together, as well as laurel crowns here. So right now your soul is moving towards inner alignment. Two important aspects of yourself, the emotion and the reason, or maybe the spiritual and the practical, are starting to come into balance. And that's reinforced by the duality of this particular card here. You're not in a major conflict, but there's still a process unfolding here. The Cadius between the two figures points to healing, integration, and coming together, that harmony. And then the crowns that we have suggest that that harmony is possible if you stay committed to this union. And the reason why is because it's a symbol of success. So now we move on into your blocks. So for internal block here, we have the Queen of Vessel. And this particular deck has an extra type of suit. So here we're talking about you're naturally intuitive and emotionally aware, but this sensitivity might be working against you right now. You might be absorbing too much from other people or your environment, which makes it harder to stay grounded or focused. This particular queen is reigning over emotions or water, because it goes from, if you know anything about alchemy, it goes from the blackening into the whitening, and she's responsible for whitening, and that occurs with the help of water. So there might be a tendency here to withdraw emotionally or wait for perfect clarity before taking action. So this may cause delays or overthinking. So here the queen here is a reminder that your empathy and insight are gifts, but they need to be paired with boundaries and trust in your own timing. You don't have to feel 100% certain before making a move. All right, so let's move on to not just your internal block, but maybe external blocks that you might be experiencing through this particular path. So we have here the Three of Cups. This card suggests that external relationships like friends or groups of friends here, or even just community values, might be unintentionally pulling you away from this personal growth, right? There could be a subtle pressure to keep the peace, to prioritize that connection with your friends or maybe that community in order to avoid rocking the boat. Even if your inner self is calling or something deeper or more transformative, but you're unable to do that just to appease them or maybe just to keep the peace. It's important to ask, are you staying in type of like in a emotional comfort zone to just avoid uncomfortable situations or changes? So let's talk about your lessons that you need to, that you haven't fully integrated. All right, so here we have rebirth. Rebirth is part of the Death card. It's a little different from the Death card. So this talks about a major turning point. Rebirth here is talking about internal transformation. It's referring to the sense of not just closing one chapter and opening another, but it's actual complete, making yourself completely different in you. So the figure in meditation here also shows that it's also a process of spiritual transformation, and that it's not just a spiritual transformation, but it's an intentional spiritual transformation. You're being asked to let go of old beliefs, attachments, or self-images that no longer fit who you are becoming. This card confirms that you're not meant to return to who you were in the past. Something new is forming, but it can only emerge after something else is fully released. So the type of alchemical process that you're going through in this particular card that you need to integrate is referred to as putrefaction. It's when you have a substance that dies and then comes back as a completely new substance. In this case, this is a man who becomes a plant. Now let's move on to what you need to embrace. So in essence, it would be in the same regards to this lesson, and we'll get more information on that. Okay, that's funny enough because this is also a death card, but it's in reverse. Death reverse shows that there's a resistance to letting go. Even if you know something is ending, unfolding, part of you might not, is hesitating, maybe out of fear, out of habit, or maybe there's some sort of emotional attachment, maybe perhaps to your friends or community here. There's a resistance. This resistance creates stagnation, right? Both emotionally, energetically. It's like holding on to something that's already shifting and changing. And that's only going to make the process a little bit harder. This card encourages you to stop resisting what's inevitable. Let the change happen, even if it's uncomfortable, because staying stuck will make it even harder for you in the long run. All right, so let's hear what your advice is from the universe or your higher self. The Judgment card. Okay, perfect card here. Your higher self is speaking clearly. It's a time of awakening. You're being called to step into that new version of yourself, one that's more honest, aligned, and free. Judgment here shows up when you're already done the work. You've gone through the challenges, learned important lessons here that you need, and now you're being asked to own that growth and move forward. So the real question is, are you ready to answer the call, right? To stop playing small, to stop looking back and holding on or clinging to excuses here, and to actually step into that purpose, that higher calling. Sorry. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. You're now ready to move on, and you're ready. You're more than ready than you realize. So this reading is emotionally deep and spiritually significant in the sense that it has a lot of death cards, judgment cards here. It's talking about that transformation, right? It's not necessarily about taking fast action. It's about facing what's already changing within you and choosing to move forward and not delay. So the overall message here is to let go from what's keeping you stuck here, right? And that is from the external factors here. That's your Three of Cups. It might be the people that are surrounding you, or it might just be from people pleasing, as you can see here from the Queen of Vessels. Stop second guessing your inner voice and trusting that you're on the edge of something real here. Your higher self is not somewhere far away. It's actually within you and within reach. All right. So hopefully that resonated, and thank you so much for watching. We're going to move on to the next reading here. All right. So this particular question is a love question. It's A's feelings towards SU. All right, so we're gonna start with what is the current thought of A towards SU. We have the King of Swords. So A is keeping their feelings in check and thinking more with logic, and that's how we consider swords a little bit more about communication and logic and practicality. They may be emotionally distant, appear cold. They might be prioritizing rational thinking or boundaries. They might be observing rather than acting. And this is their way of perhaps staying in control. So let's look at any hidden or unspoken emotions. Okay, so here we have the Queen of Wands. Underneath the surface, even though they might appear a little bit more cold, the Queen of Wands shows that deep inside there's more of a feeling or a strong pull towards you. There's admiration, perhaps, attraction. They may see you as powerful, magnetic, and full of vitality. And however, they may feel you're kind of out of reach or intimidating in some way, as the Queen of Wands is a little bit more intimidating. Now let's look at intentions and any emotional blocks here. So here for the intentions, the Four of Wands in reverse. So this person here may not feel ready for something serious or stable. They may want a connection, but not necessarily commitment. They may fear of disrupting their current life or not knowing how to integrate this in the relationship into their world. So now let's look at some sort of emotional block and why they're not necessarily looking for something stable here. Here we have the Moon. Maybe they're not necessarily clear what they feel or what they want. They may fear past wounds or have a tendency to hide in some sort of fantasy or illusion. They may fear vulnerability or be uncertain about their own motives or your motives. So this particular card shows deep confusion, but not necessarily indifference. So what's the likely path forward? Okay, we've got the Lover's card. So the situation will not necessarily stay ambiguous forever. The Lover card shows that there's going to be a choice approaching for both of you. This could be a moment of truth, but it will require clarity and vulnerability from both of you. And I believe that might be a little bit harder for the person that you're asking, because they're represented here by the King of Swords, which shows that a person who's a little bit more cold and distant and not necessarily emotionally engaging. All right, so let's see what advice we have for you. So the Five of Cups here shows that you may be focusing more on the emotional pain, the longing, or what didn't necessarily happen between the two of you. But this card reminds you that there's still something there. But it needs healing and potential to move forward. So overall, there seems to be a connection, but it's also layered with complexity here. Right now, you may see this person as distant and guarded. They may be thinking with their head and not necessarily with their heart. And this is their way of just trying to be in control. But underneath all of that, there may be attraction, as you can see here with the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands speaks of seeing you as confident and powerful, but it's not something that they've necessarily admitted to you or said out loud. Now, in regards to building something solid, this is really uncertain. Maybe it's an issue with timing or fear of change, or simply not knowing how to fit you into their life. Something is holding them back. And you could see that here with the Four of Wands as well as the Moon, because emotionally they're confused. There might be fear, past pain, or just a fog that hasn't really sorted through out yet. The Lover cards here show a decision is coming for them and for you, but for this to happen, both of you have to be open and honest. And for you specifically, your heart may be holding on to disappointment or sadness, especially about what didn't happen between you two, but don't lose sight of what's still possible. There's something worth healing here, whether there's a connection or within yourself. So let yourself feel, but don't get stuck in that pain. Honor your emotions and then turn towards what still stands between you and yourself. So remember that clarity and peace are within reach. I hope this resonated with you. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe. I'm going to move on to the next question. All right, this question is for Sally. Her question is, will my dreams project work? All right, we're going to start with the core energy of the project itself, and from what I recall, it's an app for Sally. All right, so here we have the Two of Swords. So this is about the energy of the project long term, if it's a sustainable source of income. So right now you're unsure of whether this will become a success. There's a lot of fear, a lot of trepidation, and that's kind of affecting the progress and growth right now. Instead of sitting and letting these thoughts permeate and just letting them go, perhaps sit down and try to understand why you have these fears before moving forward. It's better to arm yourself with a plan instead of just letting them ruminate in your head. So let's see if this aligned with your vision. This question is mostly about, will it actually unfold the way you imagine, something that will generate income with minimal daily input, as you asked. So here we have the Six of Wands. So it looks like you just don't necessarily just want success, you want recognition from others. You want this to go well, to help others in your family, perhaps in your community. This is a card stating that you are manifesting success. But remember that this person just came from a long, hard trip, and this project is not going to be an easy one. So let's move on. What could slow this down? Here we have, I already called this card here. Here we have death. So this is a challenge or misstep that might affect your momentum here. So your initial ideas may not go as planned. There might be things that do not come to fruition, but this only will help pave space for a new cleared path that you might have in regards to your app. So what will help you speed it up? All right, so here you have the Hanged Man. So this is more in regards to any type of practical actions or mindset shifts or support to help you grow faster. So like the Death card, the universe is asking you to let go of a certain mindset or idea that may not align with your success in this app. So it's asking you to take a look through this in a different perspective, as this may help you progress towards your project. So if it doesn't go as imagined, what will happen instead? And here we have the Ten of Pentacles. So you will still have great financial stability, as Pentacles is about material wealth. The fact that it's on a tree suggests that it's enough for you and your family. So even though it might not go as you wish, you will still find financial stability in another direction. As with all Pentacle cards, this means that it's a long, steady source of income, but it's going to take a while for that to occur. So the next question you asked is, should I continue working with the app or do something else? And like what we got here, if this doesn't go in the right direction, you will still be financially successful. But let's see what you get here. So here we have the moon. So the moon typically does note that things are not quite clear. Things are a little hidden, and it's not necessarily the path that you wanted to go to. However, the way that the woman seems to come alive underneath the moon indicates that this project will be something that makes you successful both spiritually and financially. So let's look at the final card here, which is just a message from you. And here we have the Nine of Swords, or I'm sorry, the Nine of Wands. So here we have that it's showing that fear shouldn't let you be the deciding factor. You are able to persevere. It's showing that it's not necessary to be as defensive or guarded in regards to your goals here. All the cards here does show that it's a matter of just not necessarily being rigid in what your thoughts are and how this should go. Be a little bit more flexible, then things will go your way. And even if it doesn't, it looks like you will have material success either way, whether the app works or it doesn't work. But if the app were to work, it looks like it is going to bring you both financial and spiritual well-being in this regard. So hopefully this reading resonated with you. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe. All right, so here today we have another special love forecast reading for someone who's stepping into a new chapter. This is for Paulie, who's just entering university. Congratulations, and is curious about their romance on the horizon. So we'll be looking into the energy around the love reading, what kind of partner they might come in, and what to expect along the way. So let's start with the energy around your love life, Paulie. Okay, so here we have the Fool. So the Fool sets the tone with a fresh start. This is a card of new beginnings, optimism, and emotional openness, as you can see with their arms outstretched. So Paulie, this tells me that you're entering a new environment with an open heart and a sense of adventure. So love may find you when you're not even looking for it. It could be spontaneous and even a little bit chaotic, but full of potential. Just make sure to stay grounded as you explore. And that voice of reason is represented here with a little dog who's barking at the close to his leg here. So we're going to now look into the question, is it going to be a stable long-term relationship likely in this environment? And here we have the King of Swords. So this is where things kind of shift. The King of Swords is more analytical, he's guarded, he's thoughtful. This is not necessarily the most romantic of cards, so it suggests that either you or the people that you're attracting may be a little bit more focused on their goals, their studies, or personal development at first. It doesn't mean that love is impossible, but the emotional availability here may take time to develop. If you want something long term, it might require honesty, maturity, and very clear communication. So let's move on to what will attract these potential partners to you. Okay, perfect. Here we have the King of Cups. You may not even realize how magnetic your emotional intelligence here is. So the King of Cups suggests that people are drawn to your calm, grounded, and emotional stable energy. You offer a sense of peace. You don't need to be flashy to stand out. You have depth, kindness, and sincerity, and that makes people feel very safe and understood. So that should help draw the right people in regards to a relationship. Now let's look at the bottom card, and usually I use the bottom card as your challenge to be aware of. And here we have Justice. So this card is about balance, truth, and accountability. One of your biggest challenges here may be confronting what you really want in love and not just settling for less. This could be about situations where you're being asked to make decisions that test your integrity or others. So stay true to yourself and remember that love shouldn't require you to be compromising your values. So let's look at timeline or first signs to notice in regards to this relationship. So here we have the World. So this is a beautiful sign. The World card suggests that a key love connection may come after you complete a major phase, maybe finishing a project, setting in a new environment, or even after a personal transformation. You'll know you're close when you feel whole and confident in yourself, like you reached a new level of personal fulfillment, and that's when you'll have somebody come into your life. So for closing message or summary of this particular reading, this spread says that your love life is beginning a bold new chapter. While it may not jump into a long-term commitment immediately, as you can see here with the King of Swords, you're growing into someone who attracts mature, emotionally rich relationships, as seen by the King of Cups. Keep your heart open, just like the Fool has, but let the wisdom of justice and the world guide your choices. Balance emotion with discernment, and you'll navigate this journey a little bit easier. All right, hopefully this message resonates with you. Please feel free to like and subscribe for more personalized and collective readings. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to move on to the next reading. All right, this particular spread is for AO. This spread is designed to bring insight into his current work situation, what's beneath the surface, and kind of move forward with a little bit more clarity here. So this particular deck that I used was the Pagan Underworld. It's a beautiful deck. It's a little slippery though when you shuffle, at least for me. All right, so we're going to move on to position 1, which is the core energy of what's going on. Position 2, we're going to talk about what you're clearly aware of, and then what you're overlooking or avoiding, and then external influences, and then lastly we'll move on to guidance or advice. So let's see here. All right, so here we have the Two of Pentacles as your energy at work. So the energy at work here shows that you're juggling responsibilities, possibly even two conflicting roles or emotional pressures at work. There's a constant sense of motion here, of having to balance and adapt without ever feeling fully grounded. So the Two of Pentacles here tells me that your current job demands a lot, maybe too much. It keeps you busy, but it may not feel like it's truly fulfilling here. Typically we don't necessarily, well actually we do see a little bit of water in the Two of Pentacles, I believe. It's a little, like the water's a little topsy-turvy, which kind of mimics that sense of movement or balance needed in the Two of Pentacles. And the reason I bring that up is just to see how the emotional state is as well. So it does look like there's no sense of stability here as well. So let's move on to position 2. So this is more about what you're aware of, and we're just going to bring in that position. Here we have the moon. So the moon here appears confirming that deep down inside you know something isn't right here. There's a fog of uncertainty, a feeling that things are unclear or even hidden. Notice how there's that dark sense in that illustration here on the bottom edge. Maybe there's a lack of transparency with work or someone that you're working with, something being intentionally concealed. Your intuition has picked up on it and your instincts are right, and that's probably why you're asking this particular question. So let's look at something that maybe you're overlooking or avoiding. So that would be your position 3. Okay, so here we have the World card upside down. So the World reverse points to something that's not necessarily finished. It's a cycle that should have ended but hasn't. On one hand, you may feel that you're unseen or unrecognized with your efforts or contributions at work. On the other hand, you might be avoiding the truth. Maybe you've outgrown this particular position or waiting for validation that may never come, right? Either way, something feels incomplete, and it's time to acknowledge that. This is showing that there's no sense of external validation for the type of work that you're doing, and it looks like you're definitely struggling with responsibilities as well. So we're going to now look into external influences here. Okay, so here we have the King of Wands. This person is a strong, dynamic figure. This may represent your boss or a co-worker. This person carries fire energy. So this person I would describe as ambitious, maybe driven, and perhaps a bit domineering. He's facing the moon here. So this indicates to me that this may be the person who's a little bit mysterious. He's probably the one who's connected to that confusion or secrecy that you're the one sensing. The hidden line here beneath him I feel adds to the idea that there's more going on than meets the eye with this person. This may be someone who appears charismatic on the surface, but whose influence disrupts your sense of balance, or your sense of belonging. Yeah, so this is the person who seems to be affecting you here. Okay, so let's see if I can try to find an oracle card here that might help us. Let me see if I can do the shadow deck. Oh, it's definitely... This will give us like a keyword here. Maybe we'll figure out some sort of intention behind this person before we move on to advice. And then we'll wrap it up. All right. Okay. So for this particular person, we've got legacy and identity. So this person here might be the boss, or somebody who's trying to show that they have some sort of lasting effect and possibly pushing you down. So they're trying to show in a way that makes you feel unrecognized for your efforts, and maybe he's using what you're doing as a way of saying that they're doing the job. That's what I'm getting with legacy and identity. As you can see here, the faces are removed from the person, and in that way it's kind of showing me that this person is not necessarily doing their due diligence, doing their work, and it's, you know, usurping your work here. So let's see in regards to advice. And of course, with legacy, he's perpetuating that he's the one that's creating the lasting efforts for that particular company that you're working for. So in regards to position 5 here, so any guidance moving forward, we have the 5 of Pentacles. So this card to me speaks of feeling left out, unsupported, or even emotionally and spiritually depleted. The typical tarot deck that depicts this particular card shows of 2 desolate figures, and they're outside of a church. While the church looks warm and inviting, they're right outside looking like they just look haggard without the appropriate dress for wintertime, and they look hungry. Sorry. And so it's showing that you're not necessarily in an environment where you feel your best, not receiving the care or acknowledgement that you need. You're not necessarily emotionally supported or spiritually supported. So the guidance here is don't stay out in the cold, seek out for real support, whether that's emotional, professional, or even finding if you need a new opportunity altogether, if this is really affecting you. So the final thoughts in this particular reading is that I want to show that the very first and last card are Pentacles, the 2 and the 5, which highlights that this situation isn't just emotional, it's deeply tied to your sense of security, your worth, and your material well-being. The moon here and the world reversed reveal that there's something hitting and it's weighing you down, and the King of Wands may be contributing to that tension, especially if he's using your work as a way of saying that he's contributing to the company. You're not imagining things, your instincts are trying to protect you here. So maybe there's needs to be a shift, not necessarily a dramatic one, but one that helps you reconnect with purpose and support here in this particular environment. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this resonated with you. Feel free to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments how this reflects in your own story. All right, so let's move on to the next reading. All right, this next reading is for Judith. This is your personalized reading for insight into your two friendships and whether it's worth waiting for support with your project that you're working on, or if you're better off doing it alone. So let's work with the energy between you and N. So let's see that energy between the two of you. So here we have the King of Wands. So this card usually shows someone confident, someone bold, a natural leader. But in this image here, I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more. Sorry, I just have difficulty doing that. In this image, the king feels a little bit more guarded. The wand is held like a barrier and his expression is pretty stern. So this tells me that your friend N may have a strong personality, and while they might seem well, they may want things done their way. There's potential here, but it could come with control issues or ego dynamics from this person. So let's look at the energy between you and Y. So let's look here. Okay, so here we have the Three of Swords. This card shows emotional pain or distance, and it feels that it's pretty recent. Someone is hurt here, and there's avoidance. The way the person in the card looks away from, and it's not looking directly towards us, tells me that they're either you or Y aren't ready to face what exactly happened between the two of you. There's a wound that hasn't really fully healed. It's interesting also to see that the knives are coming in from this direction as well. So even though this feels like an emotional distancing as they're not facing you, it's affecting all three of you. So here we're going to ask why they're holding back from helping. So here we have the High Priestess. So the High Priestess is all about what's not being said. There may be unspoken feelings between you and your friends. Maybe there's confusion, guilt, or just emotional distance. And I see that as well with the wand. It's kind of as a barrier, as you can see here. This card suggests that they're keeping things to themselves. It's a time of reflection and silence and not action. All right, should you wait or move on? Here we have the Lovers. This card is about choice, not just between two people, but between paths. It's not saying drop them or wait forever. It's asking what feels most aligned with your heart. You could choose to reconnect with them, but only if you're willing to face what's being left unsaid between the two of you. Or I mean, the three of you. The three people holding hands in this version of the card suggests unity is possible, but it will require honesty and healing. And I know that might be hard, especially as it looks like they're not necessarily being receptive and kind of standoffish with the High Priestess. So let's see what the outcome will be if you were to do this project alone. And here we have the Magician. So this card is really powerful. It says that you already have everything you need emotionally, spiritually, energetically to do this. The Magician holds all the tools of the tarot: the sword, the wand, the cup, the coin. So in other words, if you choose to do this yourself, you'll be just fine. You have the skills, you have the energy to do it all solo, and it might be effective this way, but you also have to think at what cost, right? So let's look at guidance for the path forward. Okay, so here we have the Two of Wands. So this card says it's time to take initiative. You've been planning, thinking, and reflecting on this for a while. Now it's about choosing your next step. You don't need to rush things, but don't let things stay frozen either. You have a vision, trust it, and trust yourself. So here in summary, there's tension and silence in both friendships. Healing is possible, as you can see here with the Lovers card, but only through honest connection. If you choose to move forward alone, the Magician card here tells me that you're more than capable of doing it, but Spirit encourages you to stop waiting and take the next step in your path. So it's up to you. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. Hopefully this resonated. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much.